take 10 shots off your scores by using the scoring secrets throughout this video. I'm going to tell you a story. 6 months ago, I met Jeff. He works in insurance, he's got 2 young kids, and his passion is playing golf. 3 years ago, he reached a career low handicap for him of 12. He was playing great, thoroughly enjoying his golf, and the only way seemed to be up. From there, he invested masses of time in educating himself. He watched countless videos online. He took countless lessons from 6 different professionals to try and level up his game, and he was left with a completely jumbled mind. He didn't know how to complete his swing, and he had about 10 different swing thoughts going on, and he was really struggling to score on the course. He quickly watched his scores elevate, and pretty soon he'd crept up to an 18 handicap, and he was really starting to lose his love for the game. After 6 months of working together, Jeff shot a career low 77. He got his handicap down to 13. He finally started enjoying his golf again, and he was well on the way to a single-figure handicap. To get there, we had a deep dive into Jeff's game and identified areas where we could make massive improvement in his technique, his course management, his practice habits, and his mindset. We had weekly lessons online using the Skillest app, elevating his practice habits and giving him a robust scoring system to utilize on the golf course. Jeff learned to play shots he knows he can hit rather than playing shots he thinks he should hit. So for example, a lot of the time if he'd find himself in the trees and he'd see a line that would advance his ball quite well towards the pin, he would often take that on, even if it was a 1 out of 10 shot in terms of how often he'd pull that off. So in that scenario, we got him used to playing out sideways, playing a 9 out of 10 shot that he knows he's going to pull off 90% of the time, rather than taking on the hero shot. Always play the shot you know you can hit, not the shot you think you should hit. And that can change on the day. Sometimes on the day, your ability level is higher and you're able to take on shots you might not play at other times. Other times you're struggling, you're not playing well, and you've just got to play with what you've got on the day. Jeff learned the importance of using his playing distance rather than using the actual distance. Massive difference there. So quite often he'd get up to a hole, he'd take out his distance measuring device, and it would say 120 yards. So he'd play his 120 yard club, which would be his 9-iron typically. Now, that 9-iron would come up short more often than not. After analysing Jeff's game, we found that over 70% of his approach shots finished short of the hole. That's a massive amount. If we simply hit all of our shots a bit farther, took an extra club, he's going to take a couple shots off his handicap like that. The reason he was leaving it short all the time was because he wasn't actually calculating how far the shot was actually playing. So he gets up on that 120 yard shot, he measures it. Instead of playing it as 120 yard, we've got 2 things. Number one, we've got to think, how far are we actually hitting our clubs? So 120 yards with his 9-iron is a great 9-iron. That's one of his best 9-irons, not his average 9-iron. So instead of that, his average 9-iron might only be going 112, 115. So instead, we then jump up a club to an 8. Now, we've then also got to think about the different variables that are going to affect how far the ball's going to travel. So we get there and we look initially at slope. So is there any elevation to the hole? So maybe it's 5 yards uphill. Then we look at wind, 10 yards into wind. Okay, so that's 15 yards total. Okay, so the lie's a little bit uphill. That's going to add a bit more loft, going to make the ball pop a bit higher. That's going to take off some yardage. That's going to take off another 5 yards. That's 20 yards now. And the lie itself is actually a little bit in the rough and it's sitting down, not great. So that's going to take off another 5 yards. So suddenly that 120 yard shot is actually going to play 145 yards. And we've got to keep in mind that our 145 yard club, is that 145 yards with a great shot? We want it to be with an average shot. So we then play it as 150 yards to give ourselves that leeway in case we misstrike it. I challenge you, following from this video, every time you're out in the golf course and you've got an approach shot, try and calculate the playing yardage. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. You'll get better over time. It's an estimation. It's your best guesstimation, and you will get better over time. Take a guess at what the elevation is. Take a guess at the wind. Take a guess at how the lie is going to affect where the ball will go. You'll see a massive difference in your scoring over a period of time. We also found that Jeff was very unfocused in what he was working on in his golf swing. He had about 6 to 10 different swing thoughts at any time, and they were constantly changing. One day we'd be working on his takeaway, one day he'd be working on how much his body was turning, he was working on his release, he was working on his grip, his finish, and it was very variable, and as a consequence of that, we saw very variable results. And so we quite simply stripped it right back, we simplified everything down, and we identified that a lot of the things he was working on, they were not actually influencing his ball flight in a positive way. Now, anything you're working on, it needs to relate to the performance, it needs to relate to ball flight. Otherwise, what's the point? There's no point working your golf swing for you to go out in the course, not have fun, not enjoy it, and struggle. Let's simplify it, let's work on things that actually make sense and improve your ball flight so that you can play better scores without thinking about your swing as much and enjoy yourself and have fun. Because it's a hobby, that's the point. We worked on one key area at a time that made a difference to his ball flight. So Jeff struggled with a slice for a lot of time. So the first thing that we did, we initially looked at his grip, we adjusted his grip, and we checked on that to make sure that he was actually implementing that change. We had weekly lessons where we'd check up on, okay, how is that grip? Once it was then adjusted and we'd stress tested it, we then moved on to the next area. Because there's no point in making a change for someone not to have actually fully engaged with it, and it hasn't become completely natural for them, this new change, and then they just go back to it when they work on the next thing. So let's make sure that we get one thing down at a time, we improve it, and then we move to the next thing, and we build it up strong and robust. And that is a great way of ensuring that we have minimal swing thoughts and we get maximum improvements in our ball flight. Jeff also always struggled with his practice. He would commit a lot of time into hitting balls, into working on his swing. A lot of the time he would just be hitting ball after ball, working on his golf swing, working on different things constantly. And playing on the golf course is a completely different skill to that. When you're playing golf, you hit a shot, you walk for a few minutes, you hit another shot, you do the same, and it repeats. The skill that you're learning when you're at the range, you're hitting ball after ball, working your golf swing, is not the same skill. It's not transferable. So any work that you do in the range is then not going to transfer onto the golf course. So you need to be mindful of that. So we implemented a lot of performance practice work. So something as simple as splitting his balls into groups of 3. So for the first 3 balls, we would work on his golf swing. For the next 3 balls, it was performance. We would go full pre-shot routine, hit one ball to one target, change club. A lot of the time we would then add in challenges and games where we could put some pressure on him and record his progress to see, is he improving and can we make him work hard, so that when we go on the golf course, playing golf is easier. If we can make our practice hard, then playing is going to be easy. When I first met Jeff, he was incredibly engaged in his outcomes. He really wanted to lower his handicap. He wanted to shoot lower scores. He wanted to beat his mates and win the monthly medal. And that is one of the reasons that he was struggling to do all of those things. He was so focused on the outcome that he'd taken his eye off the process and the things that he needs to do on a daily basis to get to that level of performance. So we got him incredibly engaged in the process. So everything we've talked about so far, practicing right, working on the right things from a technical perspective, getting his course management bang on, making sure he plays the shots he knows he can hit, not the shots he thinks he should hit, and making sure that he gets his yardage calculations right, or at least attempts them. And he's getting so much better over time with that. If you're sick of going around in circles with your game and not seeing any progress, comment ready below and I'll send you my free online coaching guide that explains exactly how working together online works, everything that's included, and how we're going to go about leveling up your game. Have an incredible day. I hope you found this video valuable. If you can like, comment, and share this video, it would mean a massive amount to me. Take care.